What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the SG3 show, coming at you as I love to do every chance I get through the airways of YouTube. And yeah, that's right. Now you see me. Ooh, excuse me with the microphone there. Ooh, equipment malfunctions seem to be the norm these days. But as always, great to have you on with me today. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. You see the ticker right down there? That's right. And oh, by the way, there's something missing. Where was that? Oh yeah, my logo right there. Shout out to the folks at Streamyard for helping us make this possible. You'll see a little bit more of a pardon me, the microphone here, trying to keep this thing upright. But you'll see a new version of the show. You're going to be a little bit more formal, to say the least, particularly with the graphics. The app you can see right there, my Twitter handle, and from the ticker down below, you can find me on various platforms. Of course, on YouTube, told you to subscribe, but you can see all my written work as well. So hope everyone's having a great Friday. I know I'm a little bit on the edge right now, but not for a bad reason. Primarily because it's the weekend, and with March Madness now in the Sweet 16, by Saturday we'll know who the 8 teams are, and then by Sunday we'll figure out who's going to Phoenix for the Final Four. In all likelihood, the Yukon Huskies will be one of those teams, depending on what happens with their matchup with Illinois. Alabama is taking on Clemson. Yes, I know. It's a football battle in basketball. I have seen that before, particularly in my high school days, Westfield High School taking on Oscar Smith in football the same year that they took him on in basketball for the state championship. Shout out to my boys from back in the day. But I begin today's show with a little bit more of importance. By the way, for the rest of the matchups, you can check out NCAA.com to see who else is playing tonight in the Sweet 16 to see who goes on to the Elite Eight. But if you want to know them right now, NC State's playing Marquette. Shaka Smart leading the Golden Eagles into the battle here. We have other games going on right now. If I can just look up the schedule, I don't have the thing right in front of me at the moment. Yes, we do actually. NC State Marquette, Gonzaga taking on Purdue. Zach Edey and the Boilermakers going up against Mark Few's Bulldogs. Then Duke taking on the Houston Cougars. The Cougars escaping with that big win over Texas A&M. The Blue Devils under John Shire will be a tough matchup. And then the Creighton Blue Jays taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. So all eyes are on those. Clemson beating Arizona in an upset. That was huge. Alabama knocking off the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Stunning. UConn beating San Diego State by 30 in a rematch of last year's national championship. And the Fighting Illini of Illinois taking out the Iowa State Cyclones. Yes, Brock Purdy's alma mater, 72-69. So those are your results. Apologies for not having that directly on me. A little bit of a wonky situation right now as I'm trying to get this thing set up. But hey, rookie mistakes. Particularly working with StreamYard. You know, they're a great group, but when you don't have everything lined up immediately, you have to learn pretty quickly. But I digress. One of the things that's been on my mind right now is the NFL draft. And as you're going to see now in the ticker below, there's the order. So you see first overall, the Bears taking the Panthers' first pick due to the Bryce Young deal. The Panthers submitting that trade last year in regards to wanting to move up from number 9 to number 1. The price was steep. Chicago getting the first round pick this year, a second rounder next year, swapping from 1 to 9 last year, but they also picked up wide receiver DJ Moore, who had a phenomenal season for the Bears despite them finishing with a 7-10 record. The Bears also traded Justin Fields to the Pittsburgh Steelers for what some would amount to a bag of peanuts, i.e. a conditional pick in later rounds. And that really just goes back to it just didn't work out for him in Chicago, and now he's going to the Pittsburgh Steelers to compete with Russell Wilson, who was also released by the Denver Broncos. That means with the first overall pick, it is highly likely that the Chicago Bears will select USC quarterback Caleb Williams. Now, why is this of importance? Well, first of all, you need a franchise quarterback, and many have touted Williams, a DMV native out of Gonzaga High School here. I had the pleasure of watching the Gonzaga Eagles, some tapes of them. And over the years, I remember the one year they played Centerville High School near where I live on ESPNU. It was a big national game because the Wildcats had a lot of players going D1, including offensive tackle Justin Skule, who's now doing some work in the NFL. However, there's been some comments about Caleb Williams deciding to paint these, i.e., the nails, and a pink cell phone because apparently it's not macho. And I'm pulling my phone here to have the quotes directly because these day and age they can find out if you're lying or not. But of course, some people get away with it. I digress. I'm gonna bring up the quote from Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football. By the way, that show is moving to Los Angeles instead of the New York studios after several years. It's sad. I love the show. I'd give anything to go on that show. Love to talk to Kyle. Really would love to meet Jamie, the McCourtys, Peter Schrager. Hey, I'd give anything for that opportunity. But apparently, I'll probably have to stick into Combs to the Rich Eisen show. By the way, you can check out my famous moment where I went viral for the top 5 Rich Eisen show rants. Look it up. Rich Eisen's top 5 rants by an astute viewer. You will hear my voice. But back to the task at hand here. And yes, I'm going to leave the ticker for the NFL draft as I'm going here, but I might switch back to my original one. Matter of fact, I will. There we go. So, back to Brandt. He spoke about Caleb Williams and the painting the nails situation because during the NCAA tournament game for USC basketball, women's basketball, shout out to Juju Watkins, there was an issue. And the mob on social media was a little bit harsh. And by little, I mean completely harsh. Because there really was no need for them to do so, but they just lurk in the shadows, waiting for their opportunity to spew some bull jive. And Brandt fired back, rightfully so. Listen to this. In regards to him painting his nails in the lips. That's not a leader of men. Well, not a leader of me. It's not a leader of it. Pardon my voice here. You are a follower of sheep, Brandt said. Agreed. The most important qualities in a leader are being confident, being secure with yourself, being bold, and having everyone you're leading want to follow you. Amen. I've been fortunate to be around several great leaders. In our journalism department, we had a guy, James Paleologopoulos, in Boston. He ran the whole thing. He had a big beard, and he had this gruff voice. But I wanted him leading my peers because I trusted him. I trusted him to do the right thing. He was also a great guy. In VCU, we had Ben Malakoff, Parker Shoemaker, the 2 guys that I worked under. Jacob Sexton, Adam Cheek, Jason Bowman. They all had their way around them, but never once did anyone question their leadership. I didn't mind either. I was a little bit eccentric myself, but I knew what my place is, and I was fortunate to have those leaders around me. Number 2, his style will not work in the locker room. What works in the locker room for these people? They're not former players coming out saying it. If there was a former player, okay, that makes sense. It's from people who haven't been in the locker room and are so obsessed with their keyboards. As Brandt says, do you know DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Darnell Wright, the personalities and perspectives that have in the league that have evolved dramatically? The head coach of the Bears is not Bill Parcells. This is a different time. Now, that last line of Bill Parcells is a little bit misleading because Parcells had this guy named Lawrence Taylor, and he wasn't exactly the straightest guy. And by that, I mean he had a big personality, and he did what he had to do. But when it came time to leading the defense, the Giants, LT was a one-man wrecking crew. Because, as he even said himself, on the bus, they take the attendance, LT's there, Parcells looks at the driver, says, bus driver, let's go. We got enough to win. That's all you need. If you got that dude leading your defense, you're good to go. And if Caleb can lead this offense, they're in good shape. Then the Hollywood comment. Now, Jalen Johnson, the cornerback for the Bears, who got a big contract extension this offseason, he said don't bring that with him. That's not a bad thing to say. You have to work for everything. That's not the wrong thing to say. And in this day and age, people are being so sensitive about it. Get over yourself. But, and also, excuse me, Williams' personality won't fit the macho city of Chicago. That's what the folks are saying. What's so macho in Chicago? Do y'all remember Dennis Rodman with the wedding dress, painting his nails, having piercings, and coloring his hair? But when it came time to play, Rodman was dunking and dropping and beating. Where have y'all been? Michael Jordan loves the guy. Scottie Pippen loved the guy for helping them win. Now, granted, there were times where they disagreed, but excuse me, we live in a world where no one agrees with everything. Okay? Come on. Brandt goes on to say this. Caleb's personality maybe it's a little bit unusual. Okay. It's unusual because the Bears never had a guy like that, a rock star kind of quarterback, since Jim McMahon in 1985. The best quarterback they had was in the 40s with Sid Luckman. Most of these people don't even know anything about it. They care about the future and about the present. They don't care about the past. But McMahon, yes, Richard Dent in the defense and Walter Payton, God rest his soul, they ran the show. But McMahon made plays when he needed to, and he had a little bit of a personality. Let's not forget the incident where some radio guy lied about McMahon assaulting women or doing some stupid stuff with women in New Orleans. I don't know if it's a word assault, but he had some things. He called them an inappropriate word. But apologies for that. It's an insult. Excuse me, not assault. Insult. But we know that thing was proven false. But McMahon showed up for his teammates. You know what else is also that unusual? Beating Green Bay. Chicago ain't done that in a while. Y'all keep talking about wanting to beat the Packers. Where is it? Where is it? It's like Ohio State kicking Michigan. And then when we all know when Michigan wins a couple games here, Buckeyes get sensitive, as do the Michigan State Spartans. And I don't want to go too into detail on those two salty people. Saltiest groups of people I've ever met in my life. And then Brandt rounds out the rant, by saying this. When the pride and joy of Illinois, the Chicago Bears, call him to let him know on draft night that he's the number one pick, I hope he takes the call on his pink phone. I do too. Now, Williams did respond to all the commentary, and it got a little bit of a laugh. But he takes that stuff there. He knows what people are saying. And my question is, all this stuff hurled at him, is it possible because it's the Bears having the number one pick? Is it possible that that's the reason, because they don't want to see the Bears be good? Now, there were some issues when Cincinnati drafted Joe Burrow, and it wasn't Joe Burrow's fault. It's just like, oh, the Bengals are going to ruin this one, and blah, blah, blah. 2 years later, the Bengals were in the Super Bowl. And if it wasn't for a referee pulling out a yellow flag, Cincinnati would have won the Super Bowl against the Rams, but whatever. The Rams won it. They went back to the AFC Championship game the following year, lost to Kansas City. Joe Burrow gets hurt this past season, but they're still a competitive team nonetheless. The right quarterback can change the fortunes of a team. It's primarily on the Bears now to put the requisite people around Caleb Williams if he's the number one pick for them. If he's not, whoever you bring in there, they need to be prepared to handle the tough life, and the Bears are going to do whatever it takes to build the best possible team. That's on Ryan Poles, that's on Matt Eberflus, that's on Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator. The previous two I mentioned were the general manager and the head coach. Shane Waldron is the OC. It's on him to get the quarterback ready. Coach Flew has to manage the team, and Mr. Poles has to do what he has to do to get the right players. It's very simple. I don't have to be sitting here at a mic to tell this. There's a thing called seriousness. There's also a thing called reality. And most people don't live in reality. They live in their keyboards. They live in their screens. They feel like they just want to say something to say something. There are some questions about Caleb's mechanics, and I know Merrill Hodge has been out there talking about it, and I love Merrill Hodge. What he predicted about Johnny Manziel, I felt the same way. Now, Jadeveon Clowney and Khalil Mack thing, that was a great analysis as well. Clowney was a good specimen, but if you really think about it, if you look on the tape, Khalil Mack was a much better prospect. Now, this thing with Caleb Williams, I'm a little bit apprehensive. I want to believe Merrill, but I think Caleb can handle himself. Hopefully, he doesn't get himself in a situation where he brings all the shine on him and he just does what he has to do. But I digress. I'm not going to judge him. I want him to come to Chicago as a Bears fan, and I hope he can thrive with them. But I digress. We'll see how it goes down. Meanwhile, for the Bears, you have a second first-round pick. You want to go O-line? I would recommend that. I know receivers popular, but there are plenty of receivers that you can get in the third and fourth round. If you feel like you need a blue-chip receiver to help out with Caleb, feel free to do so, but you better protect those trenches. You got to invest in them, especially because you need a pass rusher alongside Montez Sweat. By the way, that was an excellent deal with the Commanders. So that's the deal, and we're just going to see how it goes down. But as always, I really appreciate y'all listening to this episode. Try to be a little bit more technologically savvy in the future. But for a first time with the new system and new everything, I think it was pretty cool. Not looking for a lot of views on this particular episode. Hopefully in the future we'll get a few more. But make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. You see that up there. You'll see it on YouTube. You find it also on my Twitter and Instagram. Shravan G News, or Shravan, which I like to call it. And then, of course, see my stuff on fansided.com. And I really appreciate you guys watching. So thank you so much. Catch you guys next time. Peace out.